Welcome to the 11th episode of the Pre-Health Purple Hawk podcast, brought to you by Pre-Health Advising at Hunter College. My name is Isaiah Keynes, and it is a pleasure to welcome three Hunter alumni who are now fourth-year medical students at the Icahn School of Medicine at Mount Sinai. Joining us today are Priya Singh, Hunter class of 2022, who studied human biology with a minor in psychology, and will be starting a physical medicine and rehabilitation residency at Mount Sinai in 2026. Dani Shill, Hunter class of 2021, a human biology major with a public health background, who will be applying for anesthesiology residency. And Kat Stratis, also Hunter class of 2021, who majored in human biology and women and gender studies, who took a gap year to earn her master's of public health and is currently applying into OBGYN residency. We're excited to hear about their journeys from Hunter to Mount Sinai, what they've learned along the way, and their advice for pre-health students. Welcome to the podcast. So I'll start with the first question, which I assume many of you have gotten many times in the past during med school interviews and probably your med school essay, but what inspired you to pursue a career in medicine? Anyone can pitch in or start.
I'll start. It's a big question, so I think we're all just sitting here like there's so many different things involved in why we decided this was the right path for us. Um, for me personally, I think it had a lot to do with my own upbringing, growing up in Sikhism. That is my primary religion, and a lot of the values I learned growing up through my family and acts of service really were meaningful to me, and I always tried to find ways to practice it. And I felt that medicine was such a beautiful way of being able to practice those values and stay true to my faith and my religion. And I also knew that I had such a strong love for the sciences. So I think over the years I wanted to explore that exactly, whether that be through different acts of community service or taking different science classes. All of it just seemed right and it felt right. And I think at Hunter is really when I felt like this was exactly what I want to do with my life. I think being involved in different global health experiences, the research that I did, I began to feel really passionate about advocacy within medicine and um, really doing work for folks who don't have the resources that they need to even access healthcare in the first place. And I think I really explored that through the global health work I did at Hunter. Um, and then I found my way at Mount Sinai. So I think all of those things combined made me decide that medicine was the right path, and I knew that I wanted to be a doctor and serve others.
Great. Okay. Thank you so much. Anyone else? I know it's a tough question.
Yeah, I can chime in. I was very uncertain about becoming a doctor, but I knew that I wanted to be a teacher in whatever I did. And it was really important for me to emphasize education, connecting with others, really being a people-facing role. And I think at Hunter is really when I started to realize that I could do that through medicine in a way that incorporated education, all the philosophies that I found very important to me. I explored public health along the way and realized that the way I wanted to incorporate public health principles had to do with being one-on-one with patients, getting to really talk to them about their health, interact with them, really help them along their journey to health for themselves. And I don't regret a single moment of it. I'm really glad to be in medicine now, and I get to be a teacher every day of my life, and it feels really rewarding to do that.
Thank you so much. And Kat, yes.
I feel like this order was so appropriate because my answer somewhat combines aspects of Danny's answer and Priya's answer. Um, so my why medicine, growing up, my father was a pharmacist and my mother was a teacher. And I realized pretty early on that being a doctor combines what I love about both of those professions. The science of pharmacy and the teaching and mentorship and just connecting with people of being a teacher. And I'm also I'm Greek American, and I also understood from a young age that doctors were very respected in our community and had a lot of power to make positive change, not just in the medical field, but on a societal level. And I felt that it was important for me to not only become a doctor and create positive change in that way, but also advocate for people who are underrepresented in society and lack access to resources like healthcare, education, for marginalized populations, and to just fight racism, homophobia, transphobia, and all those terrible things and create structural change on a broader level. So I think my why medicine was like, I love science and have been good at that. And it incorporates a lot of the daily things that I would like in a career that I think will promote longevity in that. But then the advocacy component, and specifically within the field of OBGYN, when I was at Hunter, I majored in women and gender studies because I was always a self-proclaimed feminist and I learned about reproductive justice as a framework and the reproductive rights movement, um, and just how women's health research has been underfunded for so long. Um, and women and people who can give birth just need providers who want to provide trauma-informed care, so that they could feel they could be more trustworthy of the medical system and continue to get the care that they need. Um, so that's a long-winded way of saying that I am very passionate about women's health and about social justice. And being a doctor allows me to find my specific way to be a vessel for that sort of change on a broader scale.
Wow, amazing answers. Thank you so much, everyone. So of course you guys all had aspirations in wanting to go into medicine. And of course, one of the first steps in going into medicine is of course applying to medical school. So wanted to lead into that and asking, how was your journey applying to medical school? And do you have any tips for current pre-health students or pre-medical students, specifically students at Hunter, for maybe success into applying for medical school? And you all ended up at an amazing med school, Mount Sinai, which is definitely one of my top ones. So definitely, yeah. So any tips you have?
I think ultimately, when it comes to applying to medical school, the best thing you can do for yourself is craft a narrative that feels authentic to you and then stick to that in everything that you do. Having now been on the other side with admissions committees, having now done a lot of that work, what a lot of people really search for is applicants who are going to be adding to their pool of students and who can bring a unique perspective, who can do pivotal work at their school, whether that's through research, through advocacy, through teaching, through connecting with other students, through developing the curriculum. So if you have a niche in Hunter College that you are eager to explore, whether that be in any of those realms or something else, really develop that, really become a leader in that field as much as you can, and continue pushing yourself to explore different domains within that field. So if you're really passionate about public health research, for example, consider starting a project, finding a mentor who will work with you, being able to show that you have innovation and being able to show that you have like the drive to do things on your own and really become some kind of a leader in that field. And also on the other end, just connect with as many people as you can and ask them how they did it. I think this kind of podcast is really helpful just in terms of hearing our perspectives. All of us got to medical school through very different routes. I applied the traditional route, so I, did the MCAT, applied to all the different schools, did interviews, and ended up at Mount Sinai. Very different, like people have very different routes to get to medical school. Some people take a lot of years off, some people take very few. And that journey is going to inform the path that you end up taking and the school that you end up matching at. And it's just a matter of figuring out what path works best for you.
Yeah, I would like to piggyback off of that. I think crafting a narrative from early on and figuring out sort of the activities that make you tick and you're naturally drawn to certain activities, whether that's certain clubs, certain research, certain forms of advocacy in the community. Um, you'll see that you naturally just sort of find your way and are involved in many overlapping activities. And then this narrative will later inform your answer to your why medicine, which is a question you're going to get in all of your medical school interviews. So I think just knowing yourself and knowing what you're passionate about um, will make the process a little bit more seamless because when you're passionate about something, it doesn't feel as much like work, even though it is. I would also say, like on the note of applying different routes, so I was accepted to medical school through the FlexMed program. And FlexMed is the early assurance program at the Icon School of Medicine, where you apply as at the beginning of your sophomore year of your second year of college, and you include on your application achievements, like all of that stuff from. So if you're someone who has known that you wanted to become a doctor, for you to apply to get that acceptance early. And they look at everything from college, from high school, because 1 year of college isn't really enough to show that, you're dedicated to the field. Um, but I applied through FlexMed. I was doing some shadowing in college, in high school. Um, my activities in high school weren't overtly related to medicine, but I was able to find aspects of each of my activities I was involved in that show that, like, how I would be a good doctor. So being on a team, like a sports team, being involved in your school play, doing um, leadership activities that show that you can be a team player and a leader when you need to be. Um, I was also very involved in cultural events. So that was showing my commitment to my culture and my desire to promote, to deliver culturally competent care as well, and it address all of patient's social determinants that could be impacting their health. Why it's called FlexMed is that it sort of gives you the flexibility to study your passions that may be related to medicine, but like also can be outside of medicine in college, that again will ultimately make you a better physician in the future. So my flex factor was doing a double major in human biology and women and gender studies and doing two senior projects on those. So my one thesis was on menstruation. Um, I'm applying to OBGYN now. And then my other senior project was on gender affirming care, and I'm super passionate about that. So that was my flex, and I was also able to do a medical volunteering trip abroad in Costa Rica, where I worked at a clinic in an underserved area, and did gynecological health education. And I was able to like practice my Spanish. I was able to learn more about the systems in Costa Rica that impact patients' health and like the different structural factors there. Um, and anyway, so that was like my flex factor. So if you're a student that like loves the humanities or political science or philosophy or gender studies, or like you love chemistry and you want to do this like in-depth project that is going to take a lot of your time in undergrad, but you like know that this is something that you want to accomplish before medical school, I think FlexMed is a great option for you. And then when I was applying, I worked very closely with the pre-health office. That's my second tip. So my first tip was have a narrative. My second tip is the pre-health office is your best friend. Um, Show early that you're dedicated to applying to medical school, and um, show face. Go meet that you are so excited about applying, and they will help you with every step of your application with drafting the application, with mock interviews, and then ultimately with that whole process. I can't speak to the traditional route, but I do think that the pre-health office is an invaluable resource that you're going to have in applying.
I think Danny and Kat just touched on it perfectly. I don't really have much else to add. Um, I do want to involved in a club called CUNY Union Medicine at Mount Sinai, and it's dedicated to this exact thing, giving pre-meds at CUNYs and SUNYs advice, resources, guidance on how to go through this process. Because I think for students who are at CUNYs and SUNYs, especially, you have folks that are interested in pursuing medicine but may not have access to mentors or peers or resources to really help them with their application process. And I think the narrative piece is so key. And students attending these schools, you're at public universities, and oftentimes you have students who are immigrants themselves, come from immigrant families, first generation. They have these unique stories and narratives, and I really encourage students to hold on to that and show that in your application and really honor it. It makes you unique, it makes you stand out, and it shows how you got to where you are today. And I think including that in your application and like Danny said, being very intentional with the activities you choose to pursue is going to help you create a successful application. This is the same thing that we do even in med school when applying for residency. We're very intentional about the extracurriculars that we do and how it fits into the specialty we ultimately want to pursue. And that changes too. We come into med school thinking one thing, and for a lot of people, that changes over time. And you sort of figure that out through the different opportunities you involve yourself in. And that's how you create that narrative and that story. So I think, like Kat and Danny said, that really is key, and really honoring that story and showing it in a beautiful way in the package that you create when you apply for med school.
Great. Thank you so much, everyone. This was amazing advice, especially for someone like me who's a Hunter student. I know to speak on behalf of Hunter students, it's a little bit harder, in regards to applying to med school. You kind of think that, oh, these med schools are looking for like Ivy League students or stuff like that. So, it's good to know that there's still, of course, hope for us out there, especially as you three as examples for that. So thank you so much. And going off of Hunter specifically, I wanted to ask, and we kind of discussed this a little bit before we started the podcast. How was your time at Hunter, specifically as a pre-medical student? And seeing actually that you guys have very, diverse majors, not just as a pre-medical student, but just as a student in general. How was your time at Hunter?
We're all so polite. Um, so I guess I'll go first. I loved Hunter. I had a great time in college before COVID hit. Um, so we started college in, it was a long time ago now, what, 2017? Yeah, a long time ago. I feel old. But Hunter was lovely. I think it definitely is a tough school to be at in certain ways. Most students are commuting. I was commuting from Bay Ridge, so my train ride every day was just an hour and 15 or 20 minutes to get there, and then I had to do that same trip home, so that was not fun. Um, but I think that the benefit of being at a huge school is that you get to meet so many amazing students, and people who come from such diverse walks of life. And it's not just people who, go straight from high school to college. There were a lot of non-traditional students who took a year off or so between before college, or maybe were career switchers, or just like generally, maybe they were like me and going straight to college from high school, but they had such different cultural backgrounds and stories of their families, and they identified like different sexual orientations and gender identities, and I feel like you really were exposed to everyone and the way that the world is. And I think that becoming a doctor, that's so valuable to be able to know how to interact with different kinds of people, um, and learn how to build connections with different kinds of people, because your patients are going to be from everywhere. And you're going to want to be able to find similarities in your differences. So I thought that was one aspect that I loved about it. Just the people were so cool, and I learned so much, not just from my professors, but from my peers. Um, I was involved in a lot of really cool clubs at Hunter. I was a sex educator in the Pure Health Exchange. And I know Danny was too, and um, we were teaching sex ed to high schoolers at public high schools around the city. So at first, I was teaching like all over the boroughs, and then they had the relationship centered model where they put you at one school and you got to build relationships with those students. And I feel like being a sex educator equipped me with the language that I now use as an aspiring OBGYN that is inclusive of people of all genders. language that is destigmatizing. So we're talking about body parts, we're using scientific language, we're talking about the changes that happen to your body at different times of your life, and just things that are traditionally taboo, like sex and periods and pregnancy and like all these things that like, we don't talk about with just anyone. So I think just learning how to um, be a teacher and use this sort of language was helpful later on, but also really fun because like, ninth graders say like the craziest stuff. Um, I was also involved in the Artemis Hellenic Club, and we promoted like Greek culture, and we ate Greek food and watched movies and like went to museums to learn about the history and the art of the ancient Greeks. And I got to like meet other Greek American students or Greek students who like were immigrants themselves. I'm trying to think of all the things I did. Like I feel like I was involved in a lot of like peer mentoring clubs too. Like I think what was nice was so I was also a Macaulay student, so I also had the Macaulay community and the Greater Hunter community. And I got to go to many of the Macaulay events, and also be a peer mentor for the Macaulay program, and I would meet with my mentees like once a month and help them navigate the transition from high school to college. And I was also a peer mentor for the pre-health mentoring initiative. And I was able to use my experiences in applying to medical school and being a pre-health student to um, empower my mentees to do the same. So I was giving them like study tips for their pre-health classes for like, Bio 100 or like Orgo, like what are the study tips that you use? You know, how do you find research opportunities? Like you may have to send like a lot of cold emails until a research lab replies to you, or like, applying to summer research programs like the SCORE program, which I was able to do at Memorial Sloan Kettering, or I did like another molecular imaging research program at MSK, and then also showing them like clinical volunteering. So I guess like the main, I did all the main activities that you need to apply for medical school. So you need clubs, you need research, you need clinical volunteering. So clinical volunteering, I was at the hospital for special surgery, and I was a patient navigator. So I was helping patients and their families with just, getting to their procedure and then the aftercare for that. Um, I will let Dani and Priya tell you about their path now, but that Hunter was really a great experience, and I can't recommend it enough. I think that CUNY students are so uniquely special and just like assets to be future doctors, and I really hope that with the work that we're doing at Sinai, and just CUNY and SUNY students from um, all the colleges, like never second guess yourself if you want to go to medical school. Like you totally should, and your patients are going to be so lucky for all of the amazing qualities that you have that will make you a great doctor for them.
I couldn't have said it better. I had a great time at Hunter as well, and I think being at a public university in New York City, so close to major hospitals where you have access to all these opportunities to do research or volunteer or shadow, definitely was a huge plus for anyone pursuing medicine. The SCORE program, which Kat mentioned, is a research program at MSK, which I think all three of us did, actually. And having that for the summer was incredible. We made such great connections and friends. We had great mentors, really valuable research opportunities, and um, we wouldn't have gotten that if we weren't at Hunter. Like Kat mentioned, of course, there are any obstacles or challenges you face at any public university. The financial aid office was always a scary thing for me. Um, but I think overall it was a fantastic experience and I wouldn't trade it for anything. It's why I am where I am today. Um, and I think even doing the human biology major and having that interdisciplinary approach to my education was so valuable, not just focusing on the sciences, but everything else around it, the humanities, anthropology, public health. All of that was so important and really helped me personally with just having more of like an open, broad sort of education. Um, I don't have much else to add. I think Hunter was it was such a wonderful experience.
Yeah, the only thing I have to add is kind of just reiterating what Priya and Kat have said. I am so incredibly proud to be a product of the public school system. I feel like that has carried me through so many parts of my life, so many parts of navigating medical school. I think it is something that I hold very close to my identity, and I know that Priya and Kat feel similarly. Like our public school journey has shaped us, and I really encourage all CUNY applicants to medical school to remember that they have that unique part of themselves that is going to make them a doctor who understands different perspectives, different upbringings, different backgrounds, and it'll carry you far.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I have to 100% agree. I think Hunter has a ton of opportunities that I don't think many other colleges, even private universities or those top universities have, especially with where we are. Also, on an off note, I also did score um, as well. So it's great to see. I think that's what you guys did seem a little familiar. So that's great to hear. So, speaking of opportunities, right? I know one of the big opportunities and one of the big things that are starting to grow in regards to the med school applications is research. And I wanted to ask about your guys' experiences in research, maybe in undergrad and maybe even in med school if you still did. And I know a lot of you here also had like public health research as well, which I feel like is something that's a little bit overlooked. So, it's also something I would love to hear more about your experiences doing research and how you obtain these opportunities as well. I can randomly choose. I don't know if that could work better. uh
Just like have an order, like
sure, yeah.
so that we all, I guess I'll go first, and then how have we been doing it?
I think
Me,
yes,
me, Priya, Dani.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
that
let's
works.
do that because again, we're all too nice to speak first. Um, so with research, the way that I participated in two summer research programs in college, and they both were through applications with the pre-health office. The first one was SCORE, which is at MSK, which we discussed, and the second one was another MSK, Memorial Sloan Kettering Molecular Imaging Summer Program. And that one I also found through the pre-health office because they send you out all those emails on the listserv. I know you get probably hundreds of emails every day, but do your best to read through them because there are like golden opportunities that they're sending out to you. And it you what's the saying? You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Like I didn't think I was going to get score. So I just, you apply to them and you see what falls. Um, and yeah, they were both, I believe, through emails from um, the pre-health office. And then I didn't do much other research in college. But in medical school, I took a gap year between my third and my fourth year of med school to get my master's in public health. And I did this not at Hunter, but at Columbia through the Mailman School of Public Health. And while this is something that I did in medical school, um, many of my classmates were recent graduates from undergrad who were taking one or two gap years to get their master's in public health. And while I was in class with them, they were all applying to medical school. So I would say that this is a great avenue if you're maybe not ready to apply to medical school, if you need more time to take your MCAT, if you need more time to get more like shadowing or volunteering, whatever the case may be. um, a gap year or two will really help you strengthen your application. And one way to do it is through getting a master's in public health. Um, I think given like the current state of public health in our country, we really need people who like care about public health and want to do this type of work. And just generally, a master's in public health will give you knowledge of the different structures that impact health and social determinants. So, like, how are patients navigating the healthcare system? And as a physician, how does knowledge of those barriers help you help patients to overcome whatever the barriers may be, whether that's like transportation to the hospital, whether that's insurance issues, whether that's, language and cultural differences that you need to bridge. So I would definitely encourage people that if you're thinking about a gap year, getting a master's in public health, obviously, like if you can afford to do so, whether that's, through loans or whatever. I took out loans. Um, and I understand it's not economically feasible for everyone, but many of my peers were applying to medical school, and joining labs at Columbia, and then doing research projects that they could then include on their medical school applications. So this wasn't the typical the typical like chart review. It wasn't clinical research, it was qualitative work. So two projects that I was on were using focus groups or um, key informant interviews to get knowledge about whatever intervention we were studying. And then I would do the coding of the transcripts in this software called Deduce, and then conduct thematic analysis, and then write up the manuscript on whatever the themes were that emerged from our data. And I think qualitative research um, is really important because it gives you information about healthcare and about medicine that you wouldn't otherwise get just from looking at numbers and trends. And it also it gives you more information about the patient so that you could do more patient-centered care. And it's important research. So if this is something that you're interested in, totally go for it. But this was through my master's program.
I'll actually just interrupt and piggyback off of Kat because I did the master's in public health before I went to medical school. I ended up doing my master's in public health at the CUNY Grad Center. So if you're looking to do more public health or associated work at a public university, you can do that as well. I was also a Macaulay student, and we had a pipeline program where we could take certain classes at the School of Public Health before we even graduated from Hunter. So I started taking a lot of my classes when I was still a junior or senior in college, and then it only took me a year to finish off my degree. So then I took one gap year, went off to medical school, and was also applying to med school at the same time as I was at the program. It was really great. I got to work on a public health research project at the Bronx at the school at Albert Einstein College of Medicine. So I got to be involved with their laboratory. And I didn't really pursue too much research while I was at Mount Sinai, but I kept that project going, got to see it through. I got to also be part of SCORE, and I cannot reiterate enough how helpful it is to actually keep an eye on that listserv because they're really trying to create a lot of opportunities. And obviously, not everything works out. The first time I applied for SCORE, I was denied. The second time is when I got in. Don't take a denial as something that means you could never do it again. It's just a redirection. So allow yourself the opportunity to fail, allow yourself to not necessarily get every opportunity, but just keep trying because you never know what doors will be open later on. And yeah, I think there's a lot of different ways you could do things. And research is not the end all be all, but it certainly helps, especially when you're applying to medical school, to show that you've, first of all, gained leadership in a specific project. Second of all, saw something through to completion. It shows dedication, it shows passion, it shows creativity. There are other ways to demonstrate that, but I think having at least some research on your portfolio will be very helpful.
Yeah, I'll quickly add. I also didn't do a crazy amount of research in undergrad. Score was really where it took off, and I also didn't mention this earlier, but I did flex med as well. And my flex plan was related to doing more of like neurological oncology oncological research. Um, as well as combine that with my global health interests. So the project that I did in SCORE, I basically continued working with my mentor after the summer and was able to get a manuscript out of it. So I think here quality over quantity, right? Like if you find a mentor and you really enjoy working with them and you have a project going, um, taking your time and really bringing it to the end and hopefully having a paper, which you don't have to, but maybe getting to that point or even like a poster presentation. And I know Hunter usually has an annual um, conference that they do as well for students. So even doing something like that to add to your CV um, can really help you. Um, and then another thing that I was going to mention is uh, similar to the gap years at Mount Sinai, I did a lot of orthopedics research and I worked with a bunch of students who were taking gap years and they were clinical research coordinators. And I think that's a really popular option for folks who'd want to do research um, after graduating, if not during school. There are lots of positions open for that as well. And even looking at faculty at Hunter, if there are folks who are doing research in a field that you're interested in, sending an email doesn't hurt. And just asking, hey, I'm so and so, I'm interested in the work that you're doing, would love to chat. Um, and really building those connections can really help.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Just in regards to time, I know we did kind of discuss a little bit about gap years already, based off your guys' responses. So, if it's okay, I will move on to a question I think is something that a lot of students want to hear is, you guys got through undergrad, right? So now you're in med school, you made it. I think something we want to know is how is your med school experience so far? And kind of tying into that question as well, the journey of medicine, it's long and tough, and there's a lot of sleepless nights, unfortunately. Um, and how have you found time to do the things that you love while still maintaining such successful careers so far? So yeah, how's your med school experience, and also how have you managed time to enjoy yourselves?
Okay, so I will say medical school has been the hardest but most rewarding thing I've ever done. Um, I would say that the first 2 years where you're just studying and you're learning a crazy volume of material in a very short period of time. And even if you have mastered all of your pre-health classes, it is an adjustment. And the learning curve is very steep. But you just have to believe in yourself that you can do it and use all of the resources at your disposal. So I would say that it did take like I don't know, maybe like the first two classes of medical school to figure out what new study techniques were going to be helpful. And then honestly, like with every class, you have to adjust. You just have to be able to be adaptable, um, and accept that the first week or so of the class is going to be painful in figuring out a system that works for you. But then, like, once you figure out that system, you'll be able to do well enough in that class to pass. I think also adjusting your expectations. Maybe you're getting like A's in all of your college classes. That was not the case for me in medical school. And you just have to unlearn the perfectionism that has been so ingrained in your being, probably since you were young. A lot of kids that go to med school are like gifted and talented or whatever. And you have to accept that you're around so many smart individuals who, like, maybe, they can memorize the phone book. Do people use phone books anymore? That was a bad joke. But just people who have like like insane memories and capacities to see something once and then, do well on on an exam. So I think readjusting my expectations to be okay with passing. Um, and then reminding myself that I bring so many other awesome things to the table. Because I was a Hunter student, I like can connect with people really well and like, love talking to people. And I have like other like hobbies outside of medicine. Like I love art and theater and like I love my culture and I like to, work out and do all these like other things that make me a whole person and just spend time with my friends and family that like patients may want me as a doctor and not this person who is a genius. So I think that the beginning was definitely hard. But I love my rotations. Like third year of medical school, you're rotating through all of the different fields. You're getting to actually do medicine, which is what you have been dreaming about, your whole application process and just everything feels so worth it. Um, I've also been involved in so many wonderful clubs in medical school. Like I was involved with Medical Students for Choice. I still am, and we do advocacy to improve access to abortion education and training in medical schools and also in residency and, raising money so that patients in states with bans can access this care. I've worked at our student-run gynecological clinic, where we provide care to patients without insurance, and that's been really worthwhile. Um, I've been involved in many activities that are actually similar to the ones that I was involved in at Hunter. And I guess that shows you my narrative is continuing. But yeah, it's just been really wonderful. I think time management skills are so valuable. Like, I'm almost grateful for being on the train for 3 hours in college every day because I was like, that's my study time. We have X amount of time to get this stuff done. And just having really good time management skills um, will be super helpful with any rotation or class that you're in. And then I think for me, this is very mission aligned work. It's mission driven work. So because I care so much about reproductive justice, that's what sustains me. But also, I'm aware that so many people, my mentors, my family, like have invested in me, and which is why I want to do mentorship to like pay it forward. But just understanding that this whole thing is bigger than you, and making time for your family and friends. If you care about something, you'll like make time for it because that will, you know, it takes a village, and your village will is rooting for you, and they're gonna like be there for you every step of the way through medical school. So sorry, I tried to answer how medical school has been and what gets me through it.
I think for me, it really is just find your people and also find yourself. And so I'll explain the first part. The first part is so key. I think that is really what got me through med school, having my closest friends who I know will be my friends for a lifetime, like these two lovely ladies on the call. Danny and I are roommates, and oh my goodness. I think I think if my roommates have been phenomenal, and if I didn't have Danny to like go to after I was crashing out after like anatomy lab or something or like a crazy exam, I would I would not be whole. I would not be able to function. So really finding your people. Oh, another joke we make too is our apartment is very like if we need the time to like take care of ourselves or like pause or slow down, we do that and we really encourage that. And then you have some folks who are a lot more intense and really stick to that discipline of like, okay, waking up at 6 a.m., like Anki for an hour, like questions for now. And that's just not me. And if you're that type of person, that's cool. That's great. I don't think I'd be able to live with you. Um, but it's important, right? Like surrounding yourself with people who kind of like fit those values and are there to support you in whatever way you need. Um, and that has been so important for me. And then the other part of finding yourself is really just about taking care of yourself when you can. It does get hard, and sometimes you can't have everything all at once. I think especially third year during your rotations or when you're studying for STEP, that's when it gets really hard. But fitting in little things here and there can do so much for you. For me, it was playing volleyball weekly or just like doing my nighttime skincare routine, watching Netflix, like little things like that that you can do with any time that you can make, even if it's for a couple of minutes, goes a long way. Um, so that's what's helped me personally.
I cannot, like, I, as always, agree with both of their answers. I cannot emphasize enough how much, when you're thinking about medical school, when you're thinking about where you're going to be for the next 4 years of your life, look to see how the students are. Like, look to see if they look generally well or generally unwell. Obviously, that can ebb and flow with different rotations, with different classes. But if the students are excited to talk to you, if they're excited to tell you about their experience, I think that says a lot about the school that they're at. If they seem very resigned or like very much like, I just go to class, go home, don't talk to anyone, like that's going to be indicative of what your experience could look like. Every person is different, but I do think that sometimes different curricula or different mentor opportunities, the way that classes are structured, whether they're pass fail or not, can really impact your medical school experience. And for us, I think we've been very lucky that, first of all, the people at Sinai have been incredible. I think all of us have been really lucky to find our friends. I feel very lucky to have Priya and Kat. I feel very lucky to have my roommates and my close friends. And that has been a huge boon to making sure that I get through the days and am able to be smiling at the end of it. I think also for me, getting adjusted to the fact that not every week is going to look the same in terms of what I have the capacity to do. I feel like in college, I was very used to, okay, my classes are the same weekly. Like I have a routine. I know which days I'm going to be available. With medical school, that kind of goes out the window. Like some weeks are going to be a lot harder than other weeks. Some weeks you're going to have a lot of energy to see your college friends, to see your family, to see your partner, whoever it is. Other weeks you're going to barely be struggling, like you're going to be struggling to stay afloat. And so I think allowing yourself to be flexible, giving yourself the freedom to say, okay, this is going to be a week that I have to prioritize making sure I eat 3 times a day and go to bed, and I don't have much capacity to do other things. And other weeks where you're like, okay, I can catch up on laundry, I can catch up on the life tasks that I need to do. Giving yourself the space to realize that that's going to be okay is something that I think took adjustment, but ultimately served me well. And just having grace for yourself. You know, medical school is hard. If you're not the perfect version of yourself, that's okay. If you can't get to the gym every day, that's okay. Like, just do what matters to you, do what you can, and you'll make it through to the other end. And there are going to be periods where you have time to like look back and be like, wow, I did that. And that feels really good.
Great. Thank you so much for you guys' amazing advice. And overall, what I'm getting is, try to do the things you love and also try to surround yourself with people that are going to be supportive of you, which, of course, you could apply the same to, of course, undergrad right now. And of course, it seems that those tips have got you guys through medical school because now you guys are on to applying for residency or have already got it into residency. So yeah, let's talk more a little bit about that. I think one of the main questions I like to ask during these is the process. I don't know if you guys have already applied, but is the process to applying to residency like similar in applying to med school? Is it very different? Do you think it's harder, easier? And overall, like what are you looking forward to in regards to residency or just postgraduate life in general?
So I would say that the process is pretty similar. You are selecting experiences to include in your application that demonstrate your fit for the field that you're going into. So your why medicine becomes your why this field. And I think it's helpful to think about the application in that way. So instead of thinking like, how does this activity or this research project that I did like make me an excellent future doctor, but like for me personally, like how does this show what kind of OBGYN I'm going to be? Or like how does it show that I'm going to be a great co-resident to people? Or, I learn quickly and I'm teachable. Like just switching from thinking about why medicine to why your field. I think all of the interviews are on Zoom and I would say that they're asking pretty similar questions, but like the behavioral questions. So they ask you like your why the field, why that program specifically, and then they'll ask you like challenging behavioral questions. And many of those are like hypothetical things of like having a disagreement with a coworker or having like a difficult team that you're working with. And I think those are also like similar to the questions that you're asked in medical school interviews. And then they also want to know about who you are and like, what you do for fun and what you do to like de-stress. So, yeah, I would say it's comparable. Um, and everything is on Zoom. But and then the next question was what I'm excited about in post-grad life. Um, this is difficult. I haven't even thought about what my like post interview celebration is going to be. I'm just trying to get through them at this point. I'm really taking one interview at a time. Um, my last interview is December 12th, and I guess when I'm done with it, I'll probably just get dinner with my friends and celebrate because I just want to spend time with my loved ones. And that makes me happy, like get some good food, um, and have a good time. But I have like two more rotations, so I'm not actually done until end of February. Yeah, probably just like again, like spend time with my friends and family because, that time it shrinks when you're a resident. Like your life is becoming a resident and you're focusing on your training. And you're gonna have way less time to do all that. So also probably like maybe I'll like start a new hobby. I started line dancing last year. I'll probably start going to that every week again. Um, yeah, and I'm excited to just like be a doctor. Because in the way that I said, like you're when you get to medical school, you're like, this is everything I've been working for. Like I put in so much work, it's all worth it. This is surreal. It's going to be even more surreal when I'm a resident and like the frontline provider of all these patients and having important discussions about like contraception or like someone's birth plan. And I think when you're a medical student, you some rotations let you do more than others. Um, but when you're a resident, you're like actually you're doing more medicine. So I'm very excited for that. And just to be like someone's like how cool would it be to be the person, be the resident like who delivered all these people's babies? Or like, how like if I'm talking with a young person who goes home and is like, wow, the doctor who like got me my birth control, she was iconic, like just I'm so excited for all of these experiences that I'm gonna have as a physician.
Yeah, I think the application overall is quite similar. Like we were talking about earlier, that narrative piece, again, it does apply in med school as well. And all the extracurriculars or whatever activities you involve yourself in, that's going to be a part of your application when you apply for residency. Um, Look at your transcript, they look at your letters. That's all a part of it, your personal statement. For me, I applied a little bit earlier. I want to say around a May or June, actually, through a program that's internal to Mount Sinai. And there are certain specialties that participate in it that give students the opportunity to match a little bit earlier into whatever specialty that is within Sinai itself. And so for me, I decided I wanted to apply into PM&R, um, actually around April, so close to when that application opened. Um, and like I said earlier, it's all similar components. It doesn't feel as difficult. I think applying to med school itself is definitely there's a lot more pressure and it feels really competitive and it's like once you're in, you're in. And your school really does everything that they can to support you through the residency application process too. And once you're in med school, they're gonna do everything that they can to ensure that you're doing well in your classes, that you're passing, whatever help that you need, they're there for you. And I think Mount Sinai has done an incredible job throughout the years for us. Um, and then in terms of post-grad plans, yeah, like Kat said, I don't know, travel, just hang out with friends, family. Um, it's really important to use that time that you have before starting residency, in a way that's meaningful and joyful and peaceful, whatever that is, before getting into something that's really intense. Um, but also very exciting. I'm like Kat said, I'm really excited to finally do the thing that I signed up to do, and get paid. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, I feel like my experience with residency kind of echoes a lot of what I experienced with med school. The only difference is that I feel like the interviews are a lot more casual. There are those behavioral questions, but I feel like I've had more interview experiences on the residency trail. They're like, tell me about this hobby that you wrote about in your application. Like, tell me about what you do outside of medicine. Like, what makes you you? And I think a lot of that can be specialty dependent. Like, some specialties will ask some more hard-hitting questions. Some people will ask more hard-hitting questions, but I generally find that the residency application process, everyone says this, but it's very much you're interviewing the program as much as the program is interviewing you because you're trying to find a place that you are going to grow into the best version of yourself as a doctor that you can be. With medical school, you can have as many options as you want for being selected. Like theoretically, you could have 12 medical schools that want you, and then you get to choose one. With residency, you only get one match. So it's very important when you're doing the interview process to be considering what you want out of a program so that when you're actually building the list of places in order from one to down to however long the rank list is, that you're considering those priorities. So I feel like there's a lot of pressure in terms of that, in terms of considering, oh, what do I want the next 4 years of my life to look like, or however long residency is. For me, it's 4. Um, and in medical school, it very much felt like I'm just going to do my best in every interview and then consider my options if and when I get them. So it's a little bit more front loaded, the thinking of it. But other than that, I think the process is pretty similar. Like whoever's applying to medical school right now is getting a small taste of what the residency application process will feel like. And yeah, echoing what they said, I'm very excited to be able to sign orders and not have to beg my preceptor to sign an order for me for like Tylenol. That's gonna feel fun. I think it's going to be a huge adjustment to get used to the schedule of residency. It's something that no matter how hard medical school is, residency is just purely more hours, so you get used to a very different flow of life. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the rest of fourth year post interviews to just sleep and relax and see people that I haven't seen in a while, see the world if I can. The same thing that everyone else wants to do, I think.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Looks like you guys definitely have some thoughts about what you're expecting after graduating from medical school. And, early congratulations, future doctors. Glad to see that you guys are just right there, almost there. And overall, to end off for today, I wanted to ask just one final question. If you guys have any final tips or any final, things that you want to say to Hunter students, to end off.
Okay, I'm going to choose my words wisely. Okay, so be proud to be a Hunter student. Be proud of where you came from and where you're going. Um, Never underestimate yourself just because you don't have like a flashy Ivy League name on your application. Um, when you start medical school, you're all starting you and your peers who are coming from those brand name institutions are starting from the same spot, and you're all going to be doing the same sort of work, and you're both going to end up doctors at the end of the day. So I just want you to believe in yourself, because we all believe in you, all four of us on this call, um, and never hesitate to ask for help, um, because like I said before, it takes a village. I would not be where I am today without my mentors, without my friends and family who supported me along this way. So if you ever need help with anything, there's always someone who can support you in that process, and who are excited to help you and empower you to achieve all those goals. So I'm going to plug our CUNY SUNY and medicine group. Please come to our mentoring events, um, and just never give up. And we love reproductive justice. And I'll end it at that.
I couldn't have said it better. I think if you're listening to this right now and you got your headphones in and you're on the subway, just seriously be proud of everything you've achieved and you've accomplished. Like Kat said, being a Hunter student, attending a public university, and really honoring that narrative. All of that is a part of your identity and your background and why you want to do this. And it all matters. It's all so important. And we hear you, we see you, and we're here to support you through that process too. I think, like, again, like Kat said, reach out for help if you need it and lean on your village, lean on the people around you and the support network that you've built. We're all here for you, and it's not easy. It's a really tough process and it's getting more and more competitive. But I think that you have it in you. You got this. And we're here to do everything that we can to help y'all. And it's honestly an honor that you guys have this podcast and are using it to have alums share their advice and their experiences. Um, we have to stick together. And again, I believe in you.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better too. We are your network now, lean on your network. The reason that we come on this podcast is because we want to make sure that all of you have resources and have people at your disposal who are willing to volunteer their time. So reach out, like don't hesitate if you need anyone. Like the people who do this are the people who are in your corner supporting you from the valley, like making sure that you get to where you want to be. Stay kind, stay humble. This is a very long path. It can really wear you down over time, but staying true to who you are as a person and the reason that you wanted to do this in the first place will keep you going for a long time. Find your people, find your mentors, and just don't look too far ahead to the future. Just focus in the now and do what you need to do step by step to get to where you want to be.
All right, thank you so much. I do have to say this feels like one of, if not the only podcast that has made me feel very proud to be a Hunter student. So thank you. I will say that, with that in mind, it definitely has given me and definitely my other students, not my other students, my other classmates, more, I'd say, will to keep going and not fail at the first, maybe C they get in a class or, first time they fail. So yeah, thank you so much. Your guys' tips were amazing, very motivating and very moving. I think definitely a lot of students here at Hunter are going to definitely enjoy hearing your words. As again, it was very motivational and definitely, gave me a little bit more strength today to keep going and do a little bit better on my physics midterm this coming Tuesday. So thank you so much. And overall, please have a safe and wonderful Thanksgiving break and a great rest of your time in med school and best of luck on your applications to residency and congrats on your residency as well. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Good luck. Thank you.
Yeah,
You.
thank you so much for having us and giving us the space to share all of our experiences. And good luck on your physics midterm. You're gonna crush it. You got this.
Thank you so much. Need it. Thank you. Have a wonderful rest of your days.